Thank you so much for clicking onto my channel. My name is Karina Geist. I'm a flute player and a pianist. I go to Mannes School of Music in New York, but I grew up in California. So I went as far as I could to escape my parents. Just kidding, parents. I love them. I wanted to come on here to briefly put a name and a personality to the face, to the musician, and explain just a little bit about myself and do a fun little video idea that I did not come up with myself, which is 21 things I've learned in 21 years. I recently just turned 21, and on the flight back home for the holidays, I thought, what are the most important things I've learned in my life? Could I think of 21, since I at least learned one lesson a year? And I think I thought of some core ones to myself and who I am as a person. So let's skip the small talk, and you can listen along and see if you resonate to any of these. A couple more quick things about me. I'm an only child. My favorite color is yellow. I'm a cat person. I am addicted to sugar, so I try not to even start with that one. Something quick about musicians that I think a lot of people don't know. We're not driven, or I'll speak for myself, I'm not always driven by a fiery passion for music and all that. Even though it's music, which is just a totally awesome thing that makes life a million times better, it's just like any other form of work, and there's a sacrifice to it, which I think doesn't really get talked about, because if you have the privilege to do music for a living, it's a privilege, so it feels like you can't complain about it. But like with any athletic discipline, Olympic athletes, musicians, artists, pop artists, even people who have really good lives and get to do what they love, everything that you work for, even in the arts, is also work. And I think that's okay as musicians to say, hey, we actually work really hard, and sometimes we are so sick of our instruments, like this week on winter break, that we just I don't want to touch the flute for a week. Give me a break. And that doesn't make you less of a musician. So my goal with this channel, I want to teach what I know from being a music student for half of my life, which is in progress. And I want to also show that there's a human in every musician, and being vulnerable and being honest about your struggles is really important, especially when you're in an art where, if you're serious about your music, the way that you express things in music is a part of you, and you put that on display to be rejected in every audition that you ever take. And you have to get used to putting a really special part of you out there, with not just technique and hours of discipline and all that, but also emotion as you try to express a musical idea, and facing the possibility of being rejected. And any successful musician will be rejected most of the time, because it's so competitive, because that's just the nature of the field. And so part of being a musician, being a flute player, anything like that, or just being a human, is learning to let yourself work really hard on things, even though there's a chance that you work so hard on this thing, you put it out there, and it doesn't go how you want it to, but there's no excuse to not try. And eventually you do pass through an audition if you work hard and you keep going. I believe that. That's sort of the journey I'm on, the leap of faith I'm on, that I can make it in music and put a piece of myself out there. And yeah, I suppose we'll see how it goes together. We'll see how that goes. So anyway, very long introduction. I wanted to rattle off 21 things I have learned in 21 years. And I will be reading, my apologies, my scratchy notes from the plane. But here we go. Okay. Number 1. Good people can have disagreements because they've heard different facts. Number 2. People are different for reasons out of their control, You shouldn't expect everyone's brain to work like yours. Happiness happens to you when you aren't paying attention. 4, there's no such thing as feeling like it. Don't come to rely on this feeling. 5, the meaning in your life is proportionate to the responsibility you adopt. 6, just because you're emotional doesn't mean you're right. 7, life gets hard, and then it gets easy, and then it gets hard, and then it gets easy. Just ride the wave. 8, pressure is a privilege. 9, memento mori. It means remember death. Got this from the Stoicism channels on YouTube. It's a good one to remember. Number 10, nothing worth having comes easy. 11, not a single human being is as happy or as perfect as they seem on the outside, especially online. 12, a belief doesn't have to be true for it to be useful. This has to do with free will discussions and also certain religions, things like that. Something to think about. 13, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life is completely false. Even the best pursuits require sacrifice and discipline, but the ratio of work to reward is worth it if you choose properly. 14, the most charismatic and verbally persuasive people are not always the ones who are right. 15, people are incapable of contextualizing themselves in the broader history. Our frame of reference is calibrated so we can function, so a lot of conformity happens beyond what we can fathom, and we always think that what is normal now has always been the universal standard, but I believe if we went back 100 years, 200 years, so on, things would be so different, our heads would explode. So this one has to do with being grateful to be alive today and to realize even if it feels difficult with our modern problems, holy crap, it would have been so much worse in the past. Okay. 17, I like this one. Pleasure delayed is pleasure multiplied. Same with pain. It's like fancy delayed gratification. Zooming out makes problems manageable. Think about a problem you had 5 years ago and think about if that problem plagues you at all today. Chances are it probably doesn't, and you're gonna have different problems in 5 years and 10 years and eventually you'll be dead. It goes back to the memento mori Stoicism quote. It always helps me to zoom out from myself, think about how I've survived things before and I'll survive things again. Number 19, the flow state is the closest thing to heaven on earth. The line between challenge and ability is perfectly met so that the brain can't be anywhere but in the moment. This is the reason that I love music, because when your ability level is matched properly to the challenge of the music, you can't think about anything else. And as a chronic thinker and planner and stressor, it forces everything else to shut down, and I just have to focus on what the next note is, and it's a form of heaven on earth, like I said. Number 20, the love you feel for your family is going to be the most important thing in your life. Definitely true. And number 21, the brain is wired for the happiness of pursuit, not the pursuit of happiness. Again, just like with a lot of things on these lists, these aren't ideas that I came up with. They're bits and pieces of things I've heard from podcasts and people and all of that. And I find this one to be especially true. If you think back on the biggest things you ever accomplished in your life, think about how long that happiness lasted. one of the biggest things I ever did was get into some honor band thing in high school that I was previously rejected from, and then I worked really hard for the next year to get in, to try and get in again, and I did. And it was the most direct example of failing at a thing, working directly to overcome the challenge, and then succeeding. And what a rush of dopamine when I found out. But even that, the pleasure of that, I can't keep ruminating in it and be satisfied and content for the rest of my life. The brain doesn't work that way. The brain likes to work towards new goals, and positive emotion happens when you are noticing progress towards your desired goal. So, gotta always make sure you have a new goal and realize when you're happy in the journey. I know they say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It sucks, but whoever started that quote is right because there really is no destination. You just arrive and then you wonder about the next thing. So try to notice when you're happy. Like I said, one of my quotes was, happiness happens when you're not noticing. Maybe notice. Notice when you're in the flow state. Notice when you're content. Don't expect it to be the grass is greener on the other side. It's a process. And when you're a musician, look, tying it back in. When you're a musician, the process is long and full of auditions and full of rejection. And sometimes we forget the reason why we play in the first place, which is probably because we love music and it helps us shut everything else out. And it helps us put our efforts into something meaningful and beautiful. So yeah, those are 21 things I've learned in 21 years. Hopefully I'll be posting more on this channel. Please check out all of my videos. Only post nice things about them. I'm only accepting positive comments. Just kidding, of course. Everything's in progress. But yeah, it's nice to meet you, and I hope you watch more. Bye.